Good morning and welcome back to another edition of the Michigan Conservative Roundtable. My name is Mac, this is TJ, and today I'm going to just bounce some stuff off TJ. There is no script in this one. In fact, mine seldom have even an outline, and you can probably tell.
I have no idea what he's going to hit me with.
So, you have seen the show Jericho.
Yes.
Have you not? Okay.
Yes. Oh, I have some thoughts on that show.
It had pretty good ratings, but it was taken off after 2 seasons. My theory is that it was hitting a little too close to home. And I won't, spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about what goes on in the show. It starts off with what people think is a nuclear accident, only to find out that 25 American cities have been nuked. And you come to find out after a whole bunch of trial and tribulation that it was done by a corporation called Jennings and Rawle. So I think about that, and corporate America, United Airlines, Walmart, and if you haven't been to a Walmart lately, at least the one nearest to me, they're already stacking up the hand sanitizer and the masks. So that shit's coming back just in time for mail-in voting, I suspect. But in the show Jericho, they come to find out it's this corporation that did all this. And you'd say, well, why would a corporation do that kind of thing? Power and money. Walmart is putting all of their competition out of business in one fell swoop. And they don't seem to give a damn about who they offend or whether or not you come to their store, because I guess eventually you'll come to their store because there won't be any left. But you think about United Airlines. They got almost 600 people going to quit, and they don't seem to care. You can't run an airline without people, right? You got to have ground crew, you got to have baggage handlers, you got to have flight attendants, pilots, so on and so forth. My suspicion is, and I don't know how I could find this out, I think they're being paid to do it. I think these corporations are getting money on the side to do the communist bidding and slide us towards a scenario where, and you'd say, well, why would they bomb all these cities? They wanted compliance, just like we see today. Now, it's not an atomic bomb, but it is that dreaded virus that we're talking about. That's being used, I believe, and I don't know if I'm going into the Netherlands here, but fear is certainly being used to, and in the show there was a lot of fear. People didn't know what was going on, didn't have any food, didn't have any power. Going back to our previous video, the monsters are on Maple Street, or on your street actually is what it was called, referencing that Twilight Zone video, about how people will turn on each other very quickly. You see it already, and these things even haven't gotten tough yet. In so much as family members who don't speak to other family members because they didn't get the vaccine.
Yeah, big time. Let's start at the beginning when you brought up Jericho. I love this show.
I did too.
And I couldn't help but notice how it was so abruptly terminated. And right off the bat, and this is a long time ago. What 20 years ago maybe or something?
Probably about 15 to 20. Okay. It was on to the early 2000s.
Yeah, and I thought what? Are they too worried that something like this might actually happen? And because I really liked the show, and I was disappointed how it was abruptly ended. I thought for sure, not knowing anything, just making a gut guess, I said they just didn't like how this was, as you said, hit too close to home.
Yeah.
And then and you had isolated pockets of communities that had to survive on their own. They had no communication. They didn't know what was going on. Even from nearby towns, they'd have no idea what's going on. And then next thing you know, you got almost like vigilantism starting to take place and whatnot. But
yeah,
just I kind of wondered that maybe the powers that be, since it's all one big
Microsoft,
corporate,
for instance,
anyone, They were like, let's.
Let me bounce this off of you. What corporation could be Jennings and Rawls, so to speak? What kind of corporation has that kind of power over everyday life?
Well, I
have one in my mind.
That community out in California, Silicon Valley.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking Google.
Yeah.
Google has that kind of power. I mean, YouTube is shutting
Valley.
down any discussion about that virus I mentioned earlier because you're only to think what they want you to think, and you're only to say what they want you to say.
I mean, you got Google, you got Facebook, you got Twitter, and all of them are in cahoots. It almost, when you think of the term incestuous relationship, you almost think of them.
Well, we have 6 news media outlets that control all the media. Anyone with a brain cell that's alive knows that's a bad idea.
But
for all intents and purposes, they're a monopoly.
Yes, as far as I don't know.
Okay, so that's all. We're not going to go too much further with this. Just give you that something to think about. Watch that show Jericho. It's well worth the time.
Last I saw it was on Netflix.
I think it's going off there now. Maybe we're getting too close to the comfort zone for Mark Zuckerberg and Bezos and the other little Nazi.
What I found interesting was a smaller version of the U.S. came into being because of it. In other words, because I think this happens out in the Southwest.
Kansas.
All right, Midwest.
It's a fictitious town in Kansas.
And, you have it seemed to me like a group of 6 or 7 states came together and said, well, you know what? We'll be a country unto ourselves.
Yeah.
And I almost had to wonder if maybe that wasn't the final straw. I'm saying, let's cut this show.
Well, the idea is that your government would be willing to kill tens of millions of people for their purposes. So, with that, we'll wrap it. As we like to say on the Michigan Conservative Roundtable, as we always say, be safe, watch your 6, and don't tread on me.